Hello, and welcome back to the Portsmouth Comic Con podcast. I am your host, Luke Bugg, the Geek of Steel, and this is episode 3. Now, Portsmouth Comic Con is not that far away. The 11th and 12th of May is getting closer and closer. And on this episode, I got to speak with one of the guests who will be returning. Russell Walks is a brilliant artist and designer, and we talked about his passions, his origin story. We talked about Star Wars and Star Trek and so much more, including the time Russell was a guest on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Russell spoke so highly of Portsmouth and this event, it's made me even more excited to see him again and to see his artwork, to see him interact with the public and listen to more of his stories. It was a great chat, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So here it is. Episode 3 of the Portsmouth Comic Con podcast with Russell Walks. Well, here we are. Russell Walks, thank you so much for finding the time to speaking with me and also for coming over to England in a few months in May to attend Portsmouth Comic Con. But yeah, thanks for joining me.
Oh man, very, very, very happy to be here. Love Portsmouth. Love the people in Portsmouth. Love English folks. I think in general, I have yet to meet an Englishman who I haven't enjoyed spending time with.
That's lovely to hear. It's always nice to start to start the day with a nice compliment. It costs nothing, and that was a lovely thing to hear. So thank you,
Well,
Russell.
thank you.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about you today and what we can expect to see from you at Portsmouth Comic Con. But let's start with a quick origin story, all about you, Russell, if we can.
Okay. So I have known my whole life that I wanted to be an artist or an illustrator. When I was I could literally I was drawing before I could speak. If I wanted a glass of milk in America, and I imagine it was this way in the UK too, we used to get our groceries in a brown paper, just a brown paper bag, and my mother would cut those into rectangles and just leave a stack of them on the counter for, I guess they were kind of like proto post-it notes, sort of. They didn't have any glue on the back or anything, but we would use them, for notes or shopping lists or whatever. And I would draw on those. So if I wanted the TV turned on, or if I wanted to, wasn't allowed to mess around with the TV by myself, but if I wanted it on, or if I wanted a glass of milk, I would do a really rudimentary drawing of whatever I wanted and give that to them. And then it was up to them to sort of decipher it and figure out what I had given them. And then as time went on, my dad is very very athletic, fit individual, which is exactly what I wanted to be. But as time went on, I had allergies, could barely be outside. My eyesight just got worse and worse. Big thick glasses, before the point where they had any sort of technology around to sort of thin the thickness of the lenses. Now they were just, I'm not joking, man, Luke, they were a half-inch thick. And so that prevented me from doing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying when I'm doing not doing this, my day job is I work at an optician's, so I know where you're
Oh
coming from.
yeah, you know
I
exactly.
and the thickness of lenses is a big thing. I mean, now people come and see me and they want to say things like, I want to look like Geek. Give me geeky glasses. I'm like, well, it's not really a look. It's a way of life. But yes, I know where you're coming from with thick lenses, Russell.
It was a way. It's a way of life, and I lived it wholeheartedly when I was just a youngster. But I was lucky enough that my mom and my dad never never pushed me. Was a fantastic guy. Realized my limitations very quickly, I think, and encouraged me to read. And so I was a really good reader by the time I was in first grade, and I was lucky enough all through primary school to have librarians all through my school career who encouraged me and pushed me to read a little bit harder stuff. And we were at I think you guys call them. Do you guys call them a boot sale? In America, we call them a garage sale.
Yes, a car
Uh,
boot sale. Fantastic
right.
walk of life in England. Yes.
Yes. Well, we had we in America they're called garage sales, and we I went to one with my mom one time, and I found a stack of Star Trek. James Bleish, the Englishman, Star Trek novelizations, where they took episodes of the original series and turned them into short stories, and they would put them in various volumes. There were 12 volumes over a period of about, I guess, 10 or 12 years, and started reading those, and that introduced me to science fiction, and Robert Heinlein and Ray Bradbury and Isaac Asimov and all of that. Just a wide world, and loved it. Loved science fiction. And then, when I was just a youngster, Star Wars came out right on top of that interest, and um, changed my life literally forever. It was I think coming home from the movie theater with my cousin, and we were talking. It was raining outside, and we were talking about how fantastic the movie was, and I wonder how they did this, and I wonder how they did that, and um, my cousin said something like, "I wonder how they came up with Darth Vader's helmet," and there's sort of a literal epiphany there, and it occurred to me that somebody had to have come up with Darth Vader's helmet. Somebody designed Luke's lightsaber, and later it occurred to me that the person who did that probably got, paid for doing that, and that was the first time it ever made sense to me that um, I could I could do my little drawings and stuff. I could actually maybe make that my career or make that my life. And so that's really what I tackled and have always loved pop culture. And as I grew, went to college, still focusing on art the entire time. I was lucky enough to sort of stumble upon this documentary sort of miniseries that PBS did with George Lucas and with Joseph Campbell, who was a philosopher and a teacher, and he has this thing called the power of myth and the hero's journey, and I won't go into all the details of that, but basically it's the idea that we are all made to do something. We're all the heroes sort of our own adventure, and you won't know what your calling is if you don't pay attention and listen. It's not going to be like uh, Harry Potter getting 1,000 invitations to Hogwarts dropped on the table in the middle of dinner. Sometimes you might have to really pay close attention to what, I guess the universe is telling you to do. And part of the hero's journey is opening yourself up to possibilities. So in addition to, being an artist, I've tried to live my life with the whole idea that if something sounds interesting to me and it doesn't hurt someone else, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I've been on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I've been on Jeopardy. I've
Wow.
acted in a movie. All stuff that I wouldn't have done if it hadn't been 100% if it hadn't been for George Lucas and Joseph Campbell.
What a fantastic way of looking at life and just, opening the doors to opportunity, as it were. So, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? That's a fantastic little tidbit. A show that started again in the UK many years ago with the
Sure
fantastic
did.
Chris Tarrant back in the day. How far did you get?
Well, Luke, I walked away from the $125,000 question, and I have it. If you'd like to try your luck, I know what it is. I'll
Oh,
remember it for the rest of my life
go for it.
because I knew the answer, but I
Oh,
wasn't confident enough in myself to commit. I'm going to stand up for just a second and shut this door really
no, of
quickly.
course. No, I love quiz shows. I love Jeopardy. It's a show that we didn't get over here, but any sort of afternoon TV show was sort of like when you had the odd sick day from school, you would sit down and you would watch quiz shows. But yeah,
Absolutely, we had a show here called the $20,000 Pyramid, hosted by Dick Clark, who was a DJ in America, and there was a week where William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy were the celebrity contestants, and
oh,
I feigned sickness that entire week so that I could watch it.
bravo. So
Okay,
yeah, that's the question.
so
Let's go. I'm ready.
here you go. You've got $60,000. Okay, you're
Okay.
$38,000 in credit card debt. That's where you're coming to this question from.
Okay.
Okay, so if you miss the answer, you're going to walk away with $1,000, right?
Mm, okay.
If you get the answer correct, you've got $125,000. In I'm not going to get the year correct, but it doesn't matter. It's not germane to the question. In 1889, Dr. Sylvester Graham invented graham crackers, Graham or
Hmm.
Grha, you know what I'm talking about. Dr. Sylvester Graham invented graham crackers as a way of A, getting children to calm down, B, diminishing sexual desire in women, C, as a weight loss formula, or D, to aid in constipation as a laxative.
See, unlike you, who knew the answer going into this, I would, for comedic value alone, I would go for answer B.
Would you walk away though, or would you guess? How
If I didn't,
confident are you, Lou?
if I had no lifelines left, I think I would possibly take the money and run.
That was the situation I was in, and you, my friend, are correct. It
See,
was
just,
it was as a way of diminishing sexual desire in women. And the more I thought about it afterwards, the more angry I was with myself because it's Victorian America. Women were not even thought of to be autonomous.
no.
The idea that a woman might have sexual desires or anything like that was unthinkable. All of that makes perfect sense, and I should have committed, but I just didn't have the guts to.
Again, that will stick with you forever. And whenever
Oh, for sure.
because yeah, over here it's pronounced a graham cracker, but
Okay,
it is the I know of the graham cracker. So that's the cracker with the chocolate and the marshmallow, isn't it?
that's a s'more.
That's a
That's where you,
s'more.
that's where you
Ah,
take a graham cracker
and
and
make
add a
it better.
Hershey, a chocolate bar, or a Cadbury is what you guys have, right? And
Yep.
and then a marshmallow. Yeah,
See,
yeah.
I will, and
Exactly.
again, that will stick with me forever. I've learned some facts today, and that's what I love about quiz shows and trivia is that
Me too.
sometimes our brains contain the most random of facts. So
Yeah, for me, if I hear a trivia question that is well put together and is an amazingly interesting fact, I uh I get a little rush of dopamine from that. I'm just like, oh my God, that's. I'll give you a bit of trivia that I heard right now that I
go.
can't stop thinking about, which is just amazing to me. You know who Bo Derek is, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, married to John Derek. Uh, for years ago, she was in 10,
Did
Tarzan the Ape Man,
did
the
the
biggest.
beach run?
Yeah, with the
Yep,
dreadlock or with the
that's it.
beaded hair. Probably the biggest celebrity sex symbol of the 70s.
Mhm.
You don't hear about her at all anymore. She's, I think, 69 or 70. She is married to a guy named John Corbett, who is sort of a B-level American actor. You see him every once in a while. He was the romantic lead in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That's his like latest claim to fame. But seeing the fact that those two were married, and I've been trying to analyze why that's so fascinating to me. But it just really is, and little tidbits of information like that just amaze me.
And that's it.
Like when
And
Kurt told me that the Guild Hall, I was like, what is this? Like 300 years old? No, it's about 75 years old. It was bombed in World War II, and the rebuild job on that is just uh, uh, amazing.
it's
It,
one of my favorite buildings, and it's where the Portsmouth Comic Con is. It's an iconic building. It's like the Watchtower to me from Back to the Future. It's that main place in town where everybody goes. A lot of people that live in Portsmouth, it's their first place they go to for a live concert event or a live gig. I went back there in 1997, and I saw a band called Jamiroquai, and it was my first ever concert that my big sister took
I
me
know
to.
that
But
band.
but it's a place where my dad went to as a kid and saw concerts and saw bands play, and it's my venue sort of thing because that's where I go for Portsmouth Comic Con, and it's a great place in the middle of town and a perfect place for Portsmouth Comic Con, and you will be traveling all that way from Montana to the UK to
Right.
Portsmouth. And it's going to be a fun, busy weekend for you, as I'm sure you're ready for it. But what are your memories of Portsmouth?
Well, there are no negative memories, which is because I'm there with a bunch of like-minded people sharing the things that we love. Portsmouth is so the way the Comic Con is structured. is that the guests at Portsmouth get the opportunity to really engage with one another, and so uh, things like um, Steve Englehart, who's just a fantastic writer, Batman, and having dinner with him and spending some time with him and building a relationship with him that we're still in touch with, or getting the opportunity to spend time with um, people that look at things just a little bit differently than we look at them in Montana. And I could give you an example. Folks in the UK, as a general rule, don't have as much wall space as Americans do. And so it took me a year or two going to Portsmouth or doing the Star Wars celebration in London to realize that if I'm going to sell anything there, which isn't a huge priority, but if I'm going to sell anything there, I need to sell smaller size prints, big 27 by 40-inch one sheets and things like that aren't necessarily going to be as popular as smaller pieces. So learning things like that, I think, are very, very interesting. And then another thing that I really enjoy is I'll be attending Portsmouth. Another guest in Portsmouth is a pal of mine that I actually introduced to Kurt, and that's Troy Alders, who's art director at Lucasfilm. And we talk to each other occasionally, but we never get to spend any real one-on-one time because he's in San Francisco at Lucasfilm headquarters, and I'm in Montana. So although we talk on the phone, we don't get to see each other face to face very often. And we're in the midst of putting together sort of a joint presentation about art and education and Star Wars and pop culture that we hope will be really, really well received.
And that's the thing about cons for me is it's yes, it's finding time to speak with your favorite writers or artists, but it's those panels when you not only get to interact with people one to one when you go to their booth or their table, but it's the panels where you go down and you listen to people talk about what they love. You talk about your art, you talk about your writing, how you get to that point where an idea becomes a reality, and people come alive when they start talking about their passions, and it's why I love panels so much. And I'm looking forward to taking in as many as I can at Portsmouth Comic Con, because they're always a fantastic way to just get lost in somebody else's thoughts.
I agree. I gave a little reading of an essay I wrote about the importance of Star Trek at the last Portsmouth Comic Con, and I had to pause because I feel so strongly about the things that I was talking about that I I guess you could say I broke down, Luke. I don't know, but I had to stop and gather myself to complete it because that uh, that pop culture uh, is so important. I mean, pop culture is what we have in common. And I know that right now we're in a situation in the world where all anyone can focus on is what we don't have in common.
Mm.
And as movie theaters, diminish in popularity and in importance, there aren't even really places where we're all gathering anymore to um, to share our love for something. When a bunch of it's for me, and this is going to sound cheesy, but for me, seeing a movie in a movie theater with a bunch of people is has to be very, very close to what it was like 10,000 years ago when whatever small tribe you were in was sitting around a fire hearing a story from a shaman or an elder or something like that. I mean, the situation is even the same. You're in a dark room, you're lit from a single light source shining in your face, and you're hearing something that you're interested in and that you care about, and that maybe even has a lesson that you won't even realize you absorbed until
Mm.
later in your life. Just fascinating and wonderful to me.
That's a great way of looking at it. Look like a cave drawing. I can see
Right?
that happening. The next time I go and see a film, which is going to be in a couple of days' time, I'm going to think of that. That's a great way of putting it. And it is, yes, in polite company, we all put our phones away. We concentrate on something all at the same time, and it is our interpretation. And for
Right.
me, cinemas, whether going with friends or going alone to the theater, it's therapy in a way. It can be two, sometimes longer, 2.5 hours of just sitting down, listening to somebody else's story. listening to their interpretation of events, and again, taking an idea and making it into something.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And if it's done well, if it's done right, it's that hero's journey, and we recognize ourselves in it, and that's why it is so popular. I mean, Star Wars isn't popular because lightsabers are cool, or because Mark Hamill was the greatest actor of the '70s or anything like that. It's popular because it touches something in us that we don't necessarily have the capability or capacity to recognize intellectually. Sometimes you have to go around that big building that's the library in your head and sneak in the back door to where the maintenance workers are hanging out, visiting and chatting, and movies do that for us, and then we're surprised at the effect they had on us, or at how much they have the capability to make us into better people, more into the people that we want to be. Oh my God. Sorry, Luke.
This is getting deep. I'm loving it. This is why I knew you're going to be a fantastic guest, and why you're going to be another great guest at Portsmouth Comic Con. So it's going to be tricky for you. Obviously, you're coming from a very far away place. What can people expect to see when you bring your wares
Well,
to us?
my wife is coming with me. She
Wonderful.
loves the UK as much as I do, and every time we do it, we try something a little different. The first time we flew from Montana to Amsterdam, from Amsterdam to Southampton, and then took a train to Portsmouth, which is a short trip.
It is.
And that seemed to go very well. That the Southampton airport is tiny, and that went okay. Then the next time we rented a car, and that, my friend, was a nightmare. We flew into London, rented a car, and I had been up for 24 hours at that point when we got there. It didn't even occur to me that I would be sort of uh, inhibited, or be so tired that I wasn't. And within I don't know, within a half an hour, I tore the mirror off the passenger side of the car, trying to go the
Yeah.
streets are super narrow. I'm sitting on the other side of the car, um, the roundabout, and
I
I
was going to
just
say roundabouts are going to be a new thing for you, isn't it? That's
yeah, I just ripped the mirror right off, and we made it, luckily, to Portsmouth. Parked the car and just left it parked for the entire run of the show, and then the drive back was fine. So it had to be because I was just so tired.
yeah.
I thought later that that would be a fun test for a quiz show, or a game show like Fear Factor or something, to keep somebody up for 48 hours and then have them navigate London traffic.
Yeah, London, especially in the capital. I mean, if you've done that, you can do Paris next, because Paris is absolute. That's even worse. I mean, you'd be on the correct side of the road for you, but the roadworks in Paris, a little bit exciting to say the least. And after
Uh,
48 hours of traveling, maybe don't come from Amsterdam to Portsmouth. That's going to be that'll be a long
right.
trip.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think this time it's from the U.S. to London, and then a taxi from London to Portsmouth. I think that's
That'll
what
be
we'll.
an easy way to do it. Or you could get a nice train ride down. There's some fantastic views from Waterloo to Portsmouth. You could get some fantastic views on the way. And conveniently, this is a fantastic plug for the con. The train station is right next to the
Oh,
Guildhall.
that
So there you go.
good point.
Yep,
Yes,
there you
yes.
go.
Last time, a couple of years ago, I did take the train, and it was pleasant. It wasn't bad at all. So I mentioned that to Kurt, and he suggested a taxi, but maybe we'll take the train. But that leaves us room to take one big bag, and I'll put in there what I can. I'll have some brand new Star Wars travel posters licensed by Lucasfilm that have never been seen uh, before. I'll have some some sports stuff. I've been doing some sports related stuff, and I'll have some football related stuff that I'll be bringing. Football the way you guys think of it. Uh, some worldwide women's soccer
Oh
pieces,
wow.
just 2 pieces, but I just thought that would be an interesting conversation point to bring. Uh, some James Bond original artwork, a couple of skate decks, but not a lot of stuff to sell. Mostly I'm there just to visit. you
And
know.
that's what I love. I mean, I know you're a big fan of interacting with the guests that come up to you, talking about your shared passions. Because yeah, it's not just Star Wars and comics for you. You've got the sports, you've got James Bond. There's That's what I've learned over the years of just starting my geeky journey as it was with the Superman, as you can probably tell. But
Right.
from that, from talking to people and interacting with people at cons, whether it be the guests or the people that are there attending, it's learning about new things that give us so much joy and
Oh, I think so too.
open our eyes to new things. And that's why I'm looking forward to again coming and seeing you at Portsmouth Comic Con to talk
I get a
about the
I,
things.
I get a giant kick out of uh, kids just in general. Really enjoy talking to kids. And I remember at Portsmouth there was a young man named Ruben, and Ruben was with his dad, and I had all my stuff laid out, and one of the things that's very very fascinating about English people, and I've noticed that this is true at Portsmouth, but I love that show, The Repair Shop,
Oh,
on the BBC. Love it, love that
a
show.
very calming show.
Yeah,
There's no
and the people.
surprises, there's no shocks. It's just the same
Yeah,
thing over and
exactly.
over again. It's beautiful.
It's like a bowl of soup or something. Very very relaxing. But when British people or English people look at something on a table, they almost invariably put their hands behind their back and then look down. And I'm sure that that's a cultural thing. Don't touch that. Don't
No,
you know?
no, it is. I still get very high amounts of anxiety if I'm in a shop and there's lots of crystal or crockery or anything breakable on display. Because in the back of my head, all I'm hearing is my dad saying, "Put your hands in your pockets or behind your back. Don't touch anything. You break it, you buy it." So yeah, it is. I can see this now. It's like very Antiques Roadshow. Just looking
Yes,
and
absolutely.
looking, I see things.
And so Ruben and his dad were looking at my artwork, and the dad is a very pleasant man, and they're looking, and he goes, "Well, what do you think, Ruben?" Ruben says, "I think it's rubbish." And I had to laugh at Ruben's honesty. Very, very. And rubbish, what a perfect word. It
We
hurts. Rubbish cuts even a little bit deeper than trash.
It does. I think it's the that roll of the R on rubbish. When given the right gusto, it really the knife goes in a little bit deeper. But yeah,
Absolutely
what a
right.
fantastic interaction with Ruben that you've clearly remembered after all this time, Russell.
Yes, well, artists are very, very insecure. So it takes 1,000 kind words to wipe out one harsh word, and that might not even wipe out one harsh word. It might take 1,000,000 kind words. I think that's just the way we are, you
Hmm.
know.
Well, I hope Ruben comes back this year and has grown spiritually over the last month and has found some better vocabulary as well. But it's a
Ruben was
wonderful
great.
review. It's clearly
I
stuck with
got a
you.
kick out of it. Yeah.
Star Wars Celebration was last year, and it's been a huge event. It's happening in Japan, I believe, next year.
Right.
Um, is that sort of an event that you would that's a bit of a longer commute than making your way over to England, but
It's my intention to do it. To do the Japan Star Wars show. I didn't do England last year, simply because I was a little afraid to, Luke. The last time I went to Portsmouth, when I came back, I had COVID, and
oh,
I had to stay in England a little bit longer than I anticipated, which really put a crimp in some plans. And I was just I think that fear has left me now. But last summer I was still a little concerned about it. So without any of the without getting into any of the debate about how serious it is, and vaccines, and this and that, there's a certain amount of inconvenience in having to stay a place that you didn't anticipate you're going to have to stay for another 5 days or whatever it was.
yeah, and when sort of visas and things come into play as well, it makes it even a little bit more trickier. But
Yes.
it's but hopefully this time, it's coming up for Portsmouth Comic Con though in months away. It's always comes around so fast for me. I'll blink and then it's suddenly the next year, and it's Portsmouth Comic Con is back, and they're always sticking to what works, but also adding new things and making little tweaks here and there. And I've heard some insider information about what will be happening at this year's event, And I think you're going to be very happy with some of the surprises that they do
Oh,
release. I'm bite itching to tell you, but I want you to be surprised when you make that long adventure all the way over to England
excellent.
for that
Well,
event.
I'll say this, Luke, the level of cosplay between the first time that I went to Portsmouth Comic Con and the most recent time I went is has increased by leaps and bounds. You
Mm.
know, the first year I went, uh, there were the occasional, the Star Trek shirt, except it was a yellow sweatshirt with a Sharpie black collar and a cardboard logo on it have given way to giant
Mhm.
environmental suits with their own oxygen supply now and actual working anti-grav units, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And that cost, I'm not a cosplayer myself, uh, although I have a suit of stormtrooper armor that I built, but I love watching watching cosplayers, and as much uh, I've noticed that just in the last 4 or 5 years they're really coming into their own as a class of celebrity or as a respected part of fandom, and I think that's fantastic.
And that's a great way of putting it. Because I mean, back when we had our first con back in 2018, some people were aware of what this sort of event could be like, but many people of Portsmouth didn't. So, as this event has evolved over the years, as you said, as have the cosplays, and the cosplay parade and the cosplay event that happens on both days is always one that I take some time out of the day to go and watch to see what
Absolutely.
people can create and replicate from it could be the most niche character from a TV show or film. They will somehow do the research, they will reach out to people that help create the suits and just make it completely screen accurate. And I might attempt my first cosplay this
And
year.
who would you be? Who would you
Now,
cosplay, or is that a surprise?
it's possibly going to be a surprise, but there's a few sort of immersive experiences happening at this year's con. And
Donna Noble.
oh no, no, not this. No, it's gonna be somebody that is part of what you would class as the American emergency services. That's a clue. If it happens, I'm looking forward to it. But I've got to work on my cosplay. And that's what I like about it. It's stepping out of comfort zones and trying new things. Whereas years ago, I would have never have done it. But I've spoken with people who they've had their first time stepping out as a character and just again having those positive interactions with people. And as you said, kind words can go along a lot further than negative words. And once you get compliments like "I love that costume" or "I love that character," it sticks with you, and you want to you want to replicate those feelings each time you put on a suit.
There is nothing more freeing, or exhilarating than spending 2 days or 3 days with a bunch of people who share the same loves and the same interests that you share. If you haven't, if you're listening to this, I can't imagine who would be listening to this podcast who wouldn't be interested in attending Portsmouth. But I'm going to tell you, um, it would be worth a trip, from London. As far as I'm concerned, I just think it's fantastic. I love it, love it.
It's making waves as well. I mean, I think every sort of big city now is putting on their own Comic Con, their own event, whether it be for anime or gaming or video games. But what I've noticed about the Portsmouth Comic Con, it's trying to get it all together in one place, in a safe, family-friendly environment where people are not only embracing the passions they love, but also new ones as well.
That's true. I mean, I'm a family man. I have three daughters and a son, and the adult stuff certainly has its place in society but the idea I love, and San Diego Comic Con is the same way, and the Star
Mm.
Celebration is the same. Family friendly environments are just fantastic, and they're not just fantastic. Uh, for the kids, they're fantastic because if it's a family friendly environment, there is a less likely chance that there are going to be people there who will mock the things that we care about, or who will, who aren't there to make. If it's a family friendly environment, the odds are less that there's going to be people there who are only there to make fun of the things we love. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it does. I'm falling in love with the way that you find the right words to say, which is why I'm looking forward to when I go to a con. I have to try and plan my whole weekend to make sure that I've got enough time for each person that I want to meet. I need to find out to make sure that I've got time, free time, because if there's something there that I didn't know that I was going to see, I need to make sure that I don't miss anything. And I'm
Absolutely.
very excited to not only come and meet all the new artists in Artist Alley, but to come and find you as well, just to
Great.
hear about your travels and how you've made it this far and what you've got planned for the future. Because you have a wonderful way with words, Russell, and I want to witness that in person. And also thank you for traveling all this way.
Thank you, my friend. I enjoy it. I wouldn't miss it. I love it.
So wonderful stuff. So in the meantime, where can people find you online, Russell?
So I'm on Instagram, just at Russell Walks. I'm on Twitter or X at Russell Walks. The Twitter thread right now is really devoted towards Star Trek. I just illustrated the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko, which just came out a couple of weeks ago. And then I have a website, which is russellwalks.com, and you can also find me on Facebook. If you go to the website and there is a piece that you specifically feel like you'd like to have with you, just drop me an email and I'll bring it to England when I come.
There we go. Listen up, people. Russell's going to be at Portsmouth Comic Con at the 11th and the 12th of May, and I'm excited to meet you in person, to shake your hand, and to hear more of your fantastic stories. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I will
Well,
be
thank you,
seeing
Luke.
you. I'll be seeing you in May.
I look forward to it, man. Take care.
And that was episode 3. Russell, thank you not only for being a guest on this episode, but also returning to Portsmouth for the Comic Con on the 11th and 12th of May. You can find out more about Russell down below. There are links to his website and his social media pages. I cannot wait to see Russell again very, very soon, because there are some more stories that I'm just really excited to hear about. You can get your tickets for Portsmouth Comic Con by going to portsmouthcomiccon.com, and tickets are selling fast, so don't miss out. I've been Luke Bugg, the Geek of Steel, and I'll be back very soon for a brand new episode of the Portsmouth Comic Con podcast.